Oke, selamat siang Mbak Saudara semua, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Kita sebentar lagi akan mengikuti kelas pelatihan bagaimana membuat sebuah rencana usaha atau business plan yang akan dibawakan oleh Natasia Malaihollo. Kita semua yang ada di dalam ruangan Zoom ini mengetahui persis siapa Natasia Malaihollo. Dia menjalankan usaha di bidang teknologi yang bernama Wiser, yang memiliki lebih dari 2.200 customer atau clients yang berada di lebih dari 42 negara. Yang hari ini Natasia akan membahas secara terperinci dan kita semua akan belajar dari Natasia bagaimana membangun atau memiliki rencana usaha yang benar dan baik. Karena itu penting sekali dalam kita menjalankan suatu usaha. Nah, apa yang kita akan jalankan siang hari ini, biar Natasia akan berbicara, saya akan nanti translate dalam bahasa Indonesia, dan semua peserta dimohon untuk mematikan mikrofonnya, di mute, dan nanti pada saat tanya jawab, boleh dihidupkan kembali mikrofonnya, supaya penjelasan Natasia itu akan sangat jelas dan berjalan dengan lancar. Oke, tanpa panjang lebar lagi, so Natasia, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for your time. I know that you're very busy and you spare your time for come to this Zoom meeting and being like not just a teacher, but you're also an example for everybody in Maluku, especially to create a business, to run a business. And today, the most important part of starting a business is to have a good business plan. So again, we really appreciate your time, and we know that you will make lots of impact to the people in Maluku especially. Okay, Natasia, the microphone is yours, and I'll be translating. So just go on your pace, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today. Thank you.
Thanks, Iwan. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for spending your Saturday with us today. So I'm actually going to walk you through creating a simple, what's called a lean canvas, which is basically just a way to describe a simple one-page business plan.
Oke, selamat siang semuanya. Senang sekali bertemu dengan saudara semua pada siang hari ini. Saya akan membimbing kita semua untuk membuat suatu business plan menggunakan sistem namanya Lean Canvas. Itu satu halaman cara bagaimana menciptakan business plan.
So as background, in the past, usually when you start a company, most people, whether it's investors or partners, they usually expect you to create a full business plan, which is normally 50 pages. And in recent times, because of tech startups, technology companies, it becomes very expensive to build a tech company. You don't want to kind of start an entire business without, testing some of your ideas first. And so this guy named Ashmare actually came up with this idea of a simple lean canvas, which is a one-page business plan, so that you can begin testing your ideas.
Oke, dulunya kalau seorang investor atau akan mengadakan suatu kerjasama, mereka ingin melihat adanya suatu business plan, dan business plan itu dulu biasanya sekitar 50 halaman. Nah sekarang itu untuk menjalankan suatu teknologi, usaha teknologi sangat mahal sekali untuk melakukan business plan sebanyak itu, dan mereka harus melakukan testing atas bisnis yang mereka akan jalankan. Dan dari testing idea ini, itu ada seorang namanya Asma, itu dia menciptakan konsep membuat business plan yang hanya membutuhkan satu halaman saja.
And so today, the Lean Startup Canvas is typically accepted by investors, advisors, businesses as a legitimate plan for your business, and it helps you walk through all of the key areas of a business before you spend a lot of money or a lot of time working on it.
Jadi sekarang Lean Canvas itu nama konsep dari business plan-nya itu walaupun hanya satu halaman, tapi dia mencakup semua area dari apa yang penting sebelum kita melakukan suatu usaha, sehingga kita tidak akan membuang banyak uang dan waktu untuk melakukan testing.
So I'm going to share my screen. I'm gonna be creating my Lean Canvas in English, but I also would like for you all to follow along and work on your Lean Canvas as I work on mine in using the example of Facebook. So I'm actually going to share the link to the Indonesian version, which Iwan has translated, in the chat box. Please click on it and feel free to open it as I walk along through my canvas.
Oke, sekarang saya akan tunjukkan di layar Lean Canvas, yang mana dalam bahasa Inggris nantinya Mbak Saudara bisa ikuti atau ambil Lean Canvas yang dalam bahasa Indonesia, sudah ditranslate dalam bahasa Indonesia, di dalam ruang chat itu sudah dimasukkan oleh Natasia, tinggal diklik aja, nanti itu semua dalam bahasa Indonesia. Dan contoh di sini yang akan dipakai adalah Facebook.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, fantastic. Yep.
Okay, so I will close this. Okay, so this is the one-page Lean Canvas. Today we're going to work through the example of using Facebook as the company, and the reason why I chose Facebook is because I think all of you know what Facebook has become and the company in general, and so it would be easier for us to all walk through the company's Lean Canvas. And then as I'm working through this, I'll pause in between each section, and I would like for you to think about your own businesses or your own ideas or your companies. And after we work on the Facebook example, we'll pause in between, and then for you to take a few minutes to jot down your ideas, and then we'll kind of just keep moving along, just so that, if you have questions, feel free to type it in the chat box, and then we can go over them in the Q&A section.
Oke, ini adalah contoh dari Lean Canvas yang satu halaman saja, yang mana kita akan menggunakan Facebook sebagai contoh perusahaan yang kita akan bahas siang hari ini. Kenapa Facebook? Karena kita semua telah tahu apa itu Facebook, dan lebih mudah untuk kita bisa mengerti akan apa yang akan saya jelaskan siang hari ini. Dan Lean Canvas ini seperti tadi ada dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Okay. So the very first part of a business plan, normally when people start a business, you're thinking about a problem that exists in society or in your city or in the country, the world, and you want to solve that problem. And so the first part of the Lean Canvas is to write out the top 3 problems that your company or your business or your idea is going to solve. So in the case of Facebook, the top 3 problems that they were solving was that existing social networks were not great for making deep connections. And the reason why I say that was at the time when Facebook was started, MySpace existed, Friendster existed, a lot of people were on AOL Messenger, and so a lot of those networks, they were social networks, but they were actually not very helpful in terms of like having deep communication, actually keeping up to date with people, developing real friendships, real connection. And so Facebook was actually started to solve some of those problems.
Jadi biasanya waktu orang memulai suatu usaha, mereka selalu banyak berpikir mengenai apa yang menjadi masalah-masalah di dalam suatu masyarakat, masalah di dalam suatu lingkungan dia, di komunitas dia, atau bahkan masalah di negara yang di mana dia tinggal. Nah, apa yang kita akan bahas pada siang hari ini, yaitu kita harus berpikir apa yang menjadi 3 pokok permasalahan dalam kita akan jalankan usaha kita. Nah, ambil contohnya dengan Facebook. Facebook melihat yaitu masalah dengan social network yang ada yang tidak begitu baik untuk melakukan koneksi yang dalam. Go ahead.
Okay, so that was the first problem. The second problem was that people were not developing true friendships on social networks. So lack of true friendships and conversation. And then let's see, what was the other one? Low user engagement. So when Facebook was started, MySpace existed, Friendster existed, and a lot of times you were most active with certain people, like the people that you knew. But all of the other people that were they may be on your friend list, maybe they follow you, but you typically did not interact with them well because you didn't really know them. And so Facebook wanted a way so that you can constantly see what's going on with everyone, and then kind of be able to stay connected and know what's going on with other people without having to reach out to them and have like messages, conversations. So they just wanted to make it easier for you to be able to keep tabs on all of your friends and family without actually having to talk to them directly.
Oke, jadi Facebook melihat lagi adanya masalah yaitu kurangnya friendship yang benar dan bagaimana pembahasan waktu pembicaraan antara teman itu tidak begitu dalam di dalam media sosial, karena waktu itu hanya beberapa media sosial yang ada, dan juga rendahnya engage atau para pemakai dari media sosial itu untuk berinteraksi. Sehingga itu yang dipikirkan oleh Facebook, bagaimana bisa berinteraksi dengan lebih banyak orang lagi untuk membangun adanya friendship.
So take a second just to jot down really quickly. We're not going to spend too much time, because what I really want to do is just to walk you through the lean canvas as you're thinking about your companies. But I think the problem area is the most important part of the lean canvas. It's often said that if your company, if it does not have 3 problems that it's solving, it's probably not a good company, or it's not a big enough business problem to that's worth working on. And so just kind of jot down, we're going to take a few minutes just to jot down what types of problems you think that your company or your business is addressing.
Oke, tanpa membuang lebih banyak waktu lagi, saya mau lebih fokus untuk bahas juga mengenai problem ini di dalam menjalankan usaha kita. Kenapa? Karena kalau kita tidak bisa memikirkan 3 pokok masalah yang nanti akan kita hadapi sebelum kita jalankan usaha kita, berarti usaha kita itu kurang begitu bagus. Jadi siang ini saya ingin kita berpikir apa sih 3 pokok permasalahan jikalau kita jalankan usaha yang kita sedang pikirkan.
And the reason why that's important is because you want to get paid for the work that you're doing for building your company. And if this is not a problem that people are willing to pay for, then and we're going to work through that, like figuring out whether or not people will pay for this for the solution that you're building. But generally, when if you're experiencing a problem and other people are experiencing a problem, they generally want to fix that problem, and so they'll pay for a solution to fix it. And so figuring out what big problems you're actually solving will also help you determine whether or not people will pay for it, and if so, how much you can actually charge for that service.
Oke, jadi kaitannya adalah dengan kita memikirkan apa sih masalah-masalah yang sedang dihadapi saat ini, dan apakah kita dengan usaha kita ini dapat memecahkan masalah itu. Karena dengan kita menciptakan suatu usaha yang dapat memecahkan masalah itu, maka kita di situ bisa dibayar sesuai dengan jasa yang kita akan berikan ke mereka yang membutuhkan pemecahan dari masalah mereka.
So now, if we go down here, so we're going to go down to, we're going to go to solutions. Okay, so the top 3 solution basically describes the top 3 features or the top 3 main points of your business or your idea or your company. And so just under here, we're going to list the 3, basically main selling points of your solution.
Oke, sekarang kita membahas mengenai solusi. intinya di sini adalah kita memikirkan apa yang menjadi 3 pokok atau 3 points yang menjadi solusi dari usaha kita ini.
So when Facebook started, they actually started as a social network for college students. So you had to be a college student in order to join Facebook initially. You had to be a college student or
Waktu Facebook memulai, dia mulai hanya dengan college student, sehingga orang hanya bisa menjadi anggota Facebook kalau dia itu mahasiswa dari suatu college.
And one of the really interesting features about Facebook was this thing called the news feed. And so the news feed allowed you to stay updated and connected to everyone. So even if someone does not message you, someone doesn't send you, conversation or comments on your page, you can still see everything that they're doing. You can still see all of their photos, their updates, and so you pretty much can still stay connected to people without actually directly talking to them. And then when something of interest comes up, then you can comment on it.
Jadi suatu hal yang baru yang dimunculkan oleh Facebook itu disebut newsfeed, di mana walaupun kita tidak berkomunikasi atau berinteraksi dengan orang itu, kita bisa melihat foto-foto yang dinaikkan atau komentar-komentar yang dinaikkan, sampai suatu saat kita melihat ada suatu foto yang mungkin menarik bagi kita, lalu kita bisa memberikan komen atas foto itu. Itu yang kelebihan yang Facebook ciptakan.
And the number 3 biggest thing about Facebook when they started was the photo albums. And so actually I would call it the photo feed. And so again, it was just a way for people to upload their photos and then allow everyone to see it. And then if you see something interesting, or you see someone that other friends that in those photos, then you can make a connection and then actually add them. So it's allowing you to build your network and stay connected. I would actually also say the mutual friends feature was like a big part of Facebook's growth. So the ability to make friends beyond your actual friends.
Oke, jadi yang lain juga features yang diciptakan oleh Facebook yaitu foto album, di mana kita bisa menyimpan foto-foto di situ. Tapi juga ada satu hal lagi, yaitu mutual friend, itu teman bersama, di mana kita bisa melihat teman-teman yang teman kita miliki dan kita miliki di situ. Jadi bisa mengembangkan lagi jaringan pertemanan kita.
So Facebook has changed a lot since they started, but our lean canvas today is basically going to be geared towards what they were starting off with, because obviously we can now see that Facebook has turned into a very big company with a lot of different solutions and features. But this is just to kind of understand where they started, and that way we can also understand the trajectory of where they're going. But for the purposes of the lean canvas, this is just based on what their actual principles were when they started the company.
Oke, tentunya Facebook sekarang sudah berkembang menjadi suatu perusahaan yang sangat besar sekali. Cuma apa yang saya bahas pada siang hari ini itu lean canvas, di mana Facebook baru memulai usahanya. Sehingga kita juga bisa melihat bagaimana dia mulai dan bagaimana dia memproyeksi menjadi suatu perusahaan yang besar melalui business plan yang ada di lean canvas ini.
So the third section is called the unique value proposition. So this section is about identifying what about your business is incredibly unique to your company. So what about your business that you can't really get anywhere else? Another company isn't doing it as well as you. Maybe if you have if you have a restaurant and you're selling a specific kind of dish, or using a special kind of ingredient, or you're in a different location. So what about your actual business is unique to your company?
Oke, yang berikutnya adalah unique value proposition, yaitu keunikan nilai dari apa yang Anda tawarkan dari usaha Anda yang tidak dimiliki atau belum dimiliki oleh usaha-usaha lainnya. Dan ini contohnya saja jika Anda membuka sebuah restoran, apa makanan yang ditawarkan oleh restoran Anda yang mungkin tidak dimiliki oleh restoran lainnya. Ini yang disebut tawaran yang memiliki keunikan, nilai keunikan.
So in Facebook's case, in the early days, the unique value was that it was like an online society for college students. And so, people really liked the idea that it was all college students from from the same school that you were in. And so it made it kind of, like a secret society. And so when it started, you could only typically be friends from the same school. And then eventually you could actually add friends from other schools as long as you had a mutual friend. But initially it started off with just like for college students from the same school.
Jadi keunikan dari Facebook waktu mereka memulai, itu mereka memulai dengan hanya untuk para mahasiswa dari satu college. Nah, waktu itu hanya mereka bisa berteman dengan mahasiswa dari college yang sama, sampai akhirnya bisa terbuka juga dengan mahasiswa dari college yang berbeda selama ada teman yang sama yang mereka miliki.
So, and you can have more than one. Typically, you normally have 3. There's like 1 to 3. So as long as you have one unique value proposition, that's usually good for a business. You usually don't want to have more than 3 because then it kind of means that your business might be too hard, or it might be like it might just be very difficult to get people to buy into. So you just want, and you're focused on too many different, so trying to find different solutions. So typically one unique value proposition is a good thing, but you definitely don't want to have more than 3 because then it seems like your focus area is kind of all over the place.
Oke, untuk unique value proposition ini, tawaran nilai yang unik yang dari usaha yang Anda akan kerjakan atau sedang kerjakan, Anda mungkin memiliki 1 keunikan atau maksimum 3. Karena kalau sudah lebih dari 3, maka itu fokus Anda sudah tersebar kemana-mana. Jadi sekali lagi 1 atau maksimum 3 keunikan dari usaha Anda yang Anda tawarkan ke pelanggan.
And over time, your unique value proposition can definitely change, but usually it's going to take a lot for it to change. Like maybe your demographic ends up, you realize later you were selling first to women, and all of a sudden you decide, maybe like this product is better for millennials or a certain age group. And so your unique value proposition can always change, but typically it would take a lot for it to change. But normally it stays the same throughout the time frame of your company.
Oke, jadi unique value proposition ini, tawaran yang unik dari usaha Anda yang Anda jalankan ini bisa saja berubah. Mungkin saja berubah karena kondisi dari demografik atau tipe dari orang yang tinggal di daerah Anda itu berubah, atau dari produknya itu mungkin juga berubah. Mungkin saja produk itu lebih cocok untuk kaum milenial. Jadi bisa berubah, tapi memang cukup membutuhkan waktu untuk suatu produk itu terjadi perubahan, produk yang unik.
So the next section is the unfair advantage. So the unfair advantage is essentially what about your business that nobody else is going to be able to have, that's going to help grow your business. So something that actually helps grow your business. Whereas unique value is kind of like a characteristic of your business. The unfair advantage is something that you might have that's very hard for somebody else to get, that's going to help you. So for example, AI companies, like artificial intelligence companies, typically have people with PhDs, data scientists with PhDs that are working on those companies. So their unfair advantage is typically someone that has deep knowledge of artificial intelligence. A regular person that is not, a data scientist, someone with a PhD in data science, someone that studied artificial intelligence would not be able to start an artificial intelligence company because they don't, have the experience of AI. So different qualifications. Maybe you have a certain kind of skill set, you have a certain type of product that nobody else can get. And so that becomes your unfair advantage.
Oke, jadi unfair advantage ini sedikit berbeda daripada unique value proposition. Kalau tadi unique value proposition itu kita membahas mengenai karakteristik dari produk. Tapi kalau unfair advantage ini yaitu bagaimana Anda menciptakan suatu produk yang susah untuk di-copy atau diambil begitu saja oleh atau dibeli di pasaran oleh banyak orang. Contohnya seperti artificial intelligence. Untuk orang menciptakan sebuah usaha artificial intelligence itu, dia harus memiliki ilmu yang begitu dalam. Biasanya para PhD, doktor yang di bidang data science, itulah orang-orang yang bisa menciptakan usaha artificial intelligence. Jadi tidak mudah untuk di-copy oleh orang awam, tuh tidak bisa membuat perusahaan artificial intelligence. Jadi ini hanya contoh daripada unfair advantage itu.
Yes. So in the case of Facebook, the unfair advantage was that they were only targeting college students, and college students tend to be around other college students. So they had something called the network effect. And basically what that means is because college students are around other college students, when someone signs onto Facebook, they end up telling their friends, like, hey, did you see that post on Facebook? Did you see my post on Facebook? And then the friend is like, well, what is Facebook? And so they end up signing on too. So they had this, because they were on college campuses where people were around each other a lot and people tended to talk with each other a lot and see the same people every day. The college students actually spread Facebook. Facebook never had to spend any money on marketing because it was spread by word of mouth through actual college students that were signing up.
Oke, seperti kita tadi tahu bahwa Facebook awalnya dimulai dengan para mahasiswa di college atau di universitas. Nah, adanya network effect atau dampak daripada jaringan yang mereka miliki sebagai mahasiswa, itu mereka sering kumpul-kumpul, bicara-bicara, dan di situ mereka mungkin saling bertanya, apakah kamu udah lihat foto saya belum yang di Facebook? Lalu ada yang bertanya, Facebook itu apaan? Lalu mereka mulai jelaskan Facebook itu apa. Nah, Facebook sendiri sebagai suatu perusahaan tidak meluangkan banyak sekali uang untuk melakukan advertising atau memperkenalkan Facebook, karena melalui jaringan dari college-college atau mahasiswa-mahasiswa ini, dengan sendirinya Facebook itu tersebar.
So, moving to customer segments. So, the customer segment side is essentially who are you targeting for your business. So, you know, if you're a restaurant and your target customer becomes that location that your restaurant is located in. Maybe you are a painting company, and so your target segment becomes people that need their homes painted or businesses that need their homes painted. The customer segment.
Natasia, can you repeat that, because your signal, I'm losing you.
Are you?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, that's better. Yeah. Oh no, it's not.
Well, I don't know if it's mine. I think is it someone on the call that maybe is a little hazard.
Tolong di mute semuanya supaya nggak ganggu ininya. Kalau nggak nanti saya nggak bisa dengar suara Natasia, susah untuk diterjemahkan. Sorry, akan rilis saja. Ada yang belum unmute. Bukan unmute, mute. Sorry, Natasia, I just have to find behind this. John.
Can I go on?
Okay. Johnny Wakey. I cannot unmute him. I cannot mute him. Pak Johnny Wakey, tolong di mute, Pak. Ini suaranya ngeganggu sekali soalnya. Bung Johnny Wakey. Kalau dengar tolong di mute, tolong dikasih mati di mikrofonnya. Okay, danke. Okay, go on, Natasha.
Okay, so customer segments is just a description of your target customer. So who are you selling to? Who do you think you're selling to? Who do you think is going to buy your product? And so if you're making baby products, then your customer segment is babies, but really it's like mothers, parents, cousins, aunts and uncles, grandmothers, grandparents. So anybody that could possibly buy your product or your service. You want to be as detailed as possible. And also you don't have to think, many levels later. So maybe right now, if your product is only for college students, then you would just write college students. And so, just immediately, if you were to sell your product tomorrow, or start a business today, who do you think would buy your product tomorrow?
Oke, jadi customer segment itu bagaimana kita mengetahui siapa yang akan membeli produk-produk kita, dan ini mungkin bisa sedikit lebih detail kita jabarkan siapa yang nantinya akan membeli produk kita. Kalau kita mau jual produk untuk bayi, siapa yang akan membeli produk itu. Kalau kita akan menjual produk untuk mahasiswa, kalau kita besok akan memulai menjual produk kita harus tahu siapa yang akan membeli produk kita.
So in Facebook's case, they actually started off targeting the top 5 schools in the United States. So the 5 ranking schools in the United States. So they started at Harvard, and then they spread to Yale, Stanford, Berkeley, and I think the last one was Brown. So there was 5 schools that they initially started just for that, and then it became so big at those 5 schools that they eventually opened it up to other schools, and then they expanded down. I think at some point they started letting community colleges, which are not the big college campuses like the ones that they started with, because so many people kept resharing and requesting. But initially they only started with the top 5 schools in the United States.
Oke, untuk contoh lagi, Facebook waktu mereka memulai, customer segment mereka itu pertama adalah 5 universitas besar atau terbaik yang ada di Amerika, mulai dengan Harvard, ada di Yale, ada di Stanford, ada di Berkeley, dan juga ada mungkin di Brown University. Nah, setelah di 5 universitas ini berjalan begitu baik, mereka mulai lagi membuka ke universitas-universitas yang lebih kecil lagi.
And eventually now, as you know, Facebook is open to anybody. So as long as you have an email address, you can sign up for Facebook. So it's just an example that the reason why they grew so quickly, though, is because they were so targeted on one customer. So oftentimes people think that when they start a business or they start a company, they have to try to reach everyone and create a product that everyone will want to use. It's actually much, much harder to try to create a product for everyone than it is to create a product for 5 schools or for 1 school. Because you want to be as focused as possible so that you can create a great experience for your first customer or for your first 100 customers. And so, the goal, of course, is to get to everyone, but starting small, staying focused really helps you improve your quality of your service and your product.
Oke, seperti kita tahu sekarang Facebook sudah menyebar kemana-mana. Selama kita memiliki email address, kita bisa menjadi anggota Facebook. Tapi kalau kita melihat kembali ke belakang bahwa Facebook menjadi besar, mulai dengan hanya target dari karakteristik customer, yaitu yang 5 universitas besar tadi. Nah, sekarang banyak orang selalu berpikir waktu mereka memulai suatu usaha, mereka ingin produknya bisa mencapai ke banyak jenis pelanggan. Nah, ini akan lebih sulit untuk bisa menciptakan produk yang bisa diterima di begitu banyak jenis manusia. Jadi lebih baik kita lebih target ke yang kecil targetnya, sehingga kita lebih cepat memiliki pengalaman-pengalaman dan juga quality daripada kita punya customer service, yang mana nantinya tentunya dari customer yang tersegmen yang kecil ini akan menjadi goal kita akan menjadi customer yang bervariasi lebih besar lagi. Jadi starting small, jadi mulai dengan segmen yang kecil dulu.
So early adopters is part of your customer segments. Usually there's you can't really tell because it's so light, but you can see there's a line that actually combines it. So early adopters is part of your customer segment. So within this segment, who is actually going to be, early adopter describes essentially your first 10 customers. So who would those first 10 customers, first 50 customers, who are your first 50 customers that are going to use your product? And so within that, even within this 5 customer segments, you know, how do you get the first 10 customers? So in Facebook's case, they had a dorm room at Harvard. And so their very first, I think, 100 customers were actually the other students in the dorm that Mark Zuckerberg was living in. So other students in dorm of Mark Zuckerberg's building at Harvard.
Oke, jadi early adopters ini atau adopsi di awal ini sebenarnya bagian daripada customer segment. Itu kalau dilihat di dalam gambar sebenarnya itu ada kaitan ke atasnya. Nah, apa yang perlu kita tahu dari early adopters ini adalah bagaimana kita mendapatkan 10 pelanggan pertama atau 50 pelanggan pertama yang kita akan gunakan itu sebagai dasaran untuk mengetahui customer kita. Nah, contohnya dengan Facebook, itu dia mulai dari asrama di mana si Mark Zuckerberg tinggal. Yang mana di dalam asrama itu kurang lebih hanya ada 100 orang. Disitulah dia mulai memperkenalkan Facebook pertama kali.
And that's important because when they grew to Yale, they grew to Stanford, they grew to Berkeley and Brown, they found a dorm at each school. So each school had, you know, a dorm that had 100 other students or 200 students in their dorm. And they basically copied the same way that they grew at Harvard, but now they were growing in a dorm at the other 4 schools.
Jadi waktu mereka berpindah ke universitas yang lain, mereka melakukan hal yang persis sama Mark Zuckerberg melakukan yang dia lakukan di Harvard. Jadi waktu dia pindah kenalkan Facebook di Yale, di Brown, di Stanford, mulai semua dari asrama-asrama mahasiswa dulu.
And so when you're thinking about it from your own business perspective, you know, think about your initial customer, but then even within that initial customer segment, who can you target that, you know, really needs your product, really needs your service, and then it's easy for you to reach. So of course, like, you know, Mark could have went directly to Stanford or some of the other schools, but since he was at Harvard, all he had to do was put a sign in the bulletin board in the hallway, tell some of his dorms, some of his neighbors. So it was very easy for him to get the word out in his dorm.
Oke, kalau dilihat dari kacamata bisnisnya, bahwa dengan di dalam early kalau customer segment ini, kita harus tahu siapa sih yang butuh produk kita atau jasa kita. Nah, kembali lagi contohnya dengan Mark Zuckerberg itu, di waktu dia memperkenalkan Facebook ini pertama kali di asramanya dia, di asrama mahasiswanya dia di Harvard, dia itu masukkan di papan-papan pengumuman, dia bicara ke tetangga kamarnya dia untuk membahas mengenai produknya dia Facebook ini.
All right. So now we're moving on to existing alternatives. So it's always good to know what other companies exist that are in your space. So this is normally also known as like your competitive analysis if you were building a 50-page business plan. So think about who else are you competing against and who else is similar. And so if there isn't any competition in the space, that is usually a bad thing, because it means that, you know, the problem is not big enough that someone else wants to solve. But if there's usually at least if there's 1 or 2 other competitors, that might mean that you're early in a new marketplace, and so which is a good thing. But in Mark Zuckerberg's case, there was actually a few other social media sites at the time, so which is a good sign. So at the time, MySpace was really big in the United States. You all might remember Friendster was really big. AOL, AIM, which is not really a social network, but it was a way for people to stay connected. But so those 3 would probably, I would say, were really big websites, platforms that people could stay connected and talk to people and talk to their friends. That was an alternative.
Oke, existing alternatif ini kalau di dalam business plan yang 50 lembar itu biasanya ini disebut sebagai comparative analysis, bagaimana kita mengetahui kompetisi kita di dalam melakukan usaha ini. Nah, kalau kita melakukan analisa kompetisi kita, kalau seandainya tidak ada kompetisi atau tidak ada orang yang mungkin melakukan hal yang sama seperti kita lakukan sama sekali, itu ada bahaya juga. Berarti kita punya produk itu bukanlah produk yang akan menyelesaikan suatu masalah. Masalahnya tidak begitu besar sehingga orang tidak memerlukan produk kita untuk dia selesaikan masalah dia. Nah, ada juga mungkin kalau kita melihat ada satu produk yang mirip sama kita, itu kemungkinan juga bahwa kita masih di dalam suatu era yang mula-mula dalam memulai bisnis yang sama. Nah, ini juga hal yang baik. Dengan kasusnya dengan Facebook, waktu dia memulai, si Mark Zuckerberg memulai Facebook, itu sudah ada beberapa social media seperti MySpace, Friendster, AOL, dan AIM. Nah, ini bagus sekali sehingga dia bisa menganalisa bagaimana kekuatan dan kelemahan dari kompetisi dia. Okay, Natasia, can I just ask you something? Because, I mean, there's so much to digest, and we've been through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can we stop and ask the audience first, maybe whether they keep up with the information, or is there anything that they would like to ask? Because otherwise, it's, for me, I mean, I'm translating. I already overload so far, but so yeah, and maybe can we just have the discussion first with the audience and see whether there's a question that they like to ask. If anyone, kalau ada yang mau tanya sejauh ini, karena kita bisa jalan terus, tapi nggak ada gunanya kalau kita jalan terus yang lain udah nggak ngikutin gitu. Jadi sejauh ini kita udah sampai ke ada 6 poin yang tadi dibahas oleh Natasia. Mungkin kita bisa adakan sedikit tanya jawab untuk menyamakan page kita, cara kita menerima masukan atau informasi ini, ya. Jadi saya rasa kita.
It is a lot. It is a lot,
isn't it? Yeah.
Normally we spend like hours work. Like usually, I actually did my lean canvas with Ashmari when he first invented it. One of my investors introduced me to him, and it literally took hours. So we are condensing a lot of information into a very short amount of time. So yes.
Mungkin ada yang mau bertanya dengan usaha yang sedang dijalankan saat ini, kaitannya dengan apa yang Natasia sudah jelaskan sejauh ini, atau mungkin sedang memikirkan untuk menjalankan suatu usaha dan kaitkan dengan apa informasi yang Natasia sampaikan, sehingga kita tahu we on the same page. Ada yang mau tanya, silakan angkat tangan di sini, atau kalau tidak ada, saya menganggap bahwa semuanya oke mengikuti.
We'll have a thumbs up. Yay.
Thumbs up, okay, that's good. Is there anyone want to ask a question? Ada yang mau nanya? Kalau enggak?
Ada, Pak Iwan.
Oke, silakan Bung Rory.
Iya. Pakai bahasa Ambon aja, lebih aman.
Jawa, lebih bagus Jawa.
Sebenarnya lihat ini bagus sekali, dia punya bagaimana strukturnya, apa segala macam. Nah, ini penasaran model penyajiannya atau bentuk realnya itu bagaimana kira-kira? Itu bisa ditunjukkan kalau ada Natasnya.
Bentuk real apa maksudnya?
Iya, model ini kan cara penyusunannya, tapi model bagaimana kita bikin ini dalam satu lembar, ya kan? Planning dalam satu lembar ini, itu fisiknya bentuk bagaimana? Ini memang, kalau ini menarik sekali, tapi kan kompleks ini dalam satu lembar, juga orang tidak jenuh untuk lihat ini. Sasarannya ke situ. Ada contoh ya?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I have the question right. So is the question, this is a lot of information. How do you condense it into one page? Is that accurate?
Yeah, and do you have any example of how you structure the all those in the lean canvas into the real kind of business plan structure?
Oh, if you wanted to convert it into a real business plan?
Yeah.
Is that?
No. What? I think
Yes,
that's
yeah.
understanding. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the idea with the lean canvas is that you want to be able to explain your business when you're starting out very easily and very quickly. And so, because oftentimes, you know, you're in the early stages of starting a business, you have to talk to the customers and find out if people are even willing to pay for it, or you need to find investors. And so you want to be able to get better and better at explaining your ideas, your problems, your unique value proposition, your customer segments. You want to be able to explain it so simply and so easily that you have a pitch that's 60 seconds that can, you know, explain your entire business. And so the lean canvas is really aimed to try to get that quick explanation. And then, you know, once you start getting the validation that the company is worth working on, then you actually can take these sections and then create a real business plan that is longer, that is more in depth.
Oke, jadi tujuannya dari Lean Canvas ini itu memberikan ide bagaimana menciptakan suatu bisnis plan yang sederhana tapi padat, sehingga dalam waktu yang singkat, waktu kita jelaskan kepada orang yang akan berinvestasi dalam bisnis kita atau menjadi partner kita itu tidak bertele-tele. Jadi kalau tadi mungkin kaitannya dengan apa pertanyaan Bung Rory, apakah nanti penjelasannya itu seperti apa yang ditulis oleh Lean Canvas? Tidak, Lean Canvas itu digunakan hanya untuk supaya idenya itu dibuat simple lalu dituangkan ke dalam satu
Konsep.
proposal ya. Ya,
Ya.
gitu.
Oke.
Jadi itu hanya untuk membantu kita melihat secara spesifik ya, secara fokus.
Oke, thank you. Thank you.
Oke.
Ya.
Anyone else before we start again?
Ada Bung Iwan, Levina.
Levina.
Ya, terima kasih Natasia. Dengan Lean Canvas, kebetulan saya sedang menyelesaikan tugas tesis saya. Saya juga bermula dengan bukan Lean Canvas, tetapi Business Model Canvas (BMC). Yang ingin saya tanyakan, jikalau pendekatannya melalui problem solution, bagaimana jikalau strukturnya vision and opportunity? Apakah Lean Canvas ini akan di-running juga seperti ini? Terima kasih.
Do you get the question, Natasia? Or not?
I think I did, but maybe you should just clarify the question for me.
She's studying for her master's right now, and she doesn't use the Lean Canvas, but she used the Business Model Canvas. And what the question was is that if it's a vision and
Opportunity. Opportunity.
Vision and opportunity, can you convert that into the Lean Canvas? Vision, I don't really get it myself. What's the question? Artinya apa tuh, Usile? Tolong jelaskan.
Maksudnya kalau tadi kita beranjak dari problem menemukan solusi, lalu kita menciptakan sebuah solusi dalam model yang kita tawarkan. Nah, kalau problem itu kan sudah didapatkan. Kalau kita baru melihat visi, berarti itu kan seperti kita menjual mimpi begitu. Tapi kita yang pembuat itu melihat visi itu, lalu ada opportunity bisnis yang kita mau bangun. Jadi apakah melakukan ini kajian seperti ini sama bentuknya ya dengan Lean Canvas ini?
Okay, so to convert the vision and the opportunities, because what we discussed right now is about the problem solving and what is the solution and all stuff. But when you only have the vision and or have the opportunity, can you put that into the Lean Canvas?
Yes, because I think so. When you have a vision of vision normally means kind of, you know, where you want to end up, right? Like the big goal of what it is that you're working on. So if you have a vision of where you want to end up, you then work backwards into how do you get to that vision. And so, you know, like when I started my company, my vision was that everybody in the world would use the company that I built or the software that I built. So how would I then I would have to work backwards into, okay, well, how do I get to that vision? Well, you know, there are certain things within that vision that I could do in order to get that vision. And eventually, as you work backwards, so in that case, I would say your point would be to start with like customer segment. So whatever your vision is, who does that vision serve? Like if you accomplish the vision, which customers are going to be very happy? And then from there, then it's like when you look at what customers will be very happy, then you would understand like your unfair advantage, your unique value proposition, because why are they very happy? And then as you work backwards. So I would say yes, you can, but you're like, you know, you'd probably just have to kind of work backwards from your vision, and you'll eventually, I think, because even with every vision, I think every vision still has a problem and a solution that you're working on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Jelas bisa
Jelas,
Sule ya. Oke.
Yeah.
Jadi bekerja kembali, like, yeah, if I can summarize it, like you started with, like you have a passion, and then from the passion you convert that into an idea, working backwards, right? And then from the idea, then you put it into the technological breakthrough, whatever that you need to, and then there's the lean canvas comes through then.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a quick question, Natasia? On customer segment, is there a minimum number either in, well, in dollar terms, I suppose, that makes it into a viable business? Or, for instance, should we think about, well,
yeah. So not in the lean canvas, not yet. So the lean canvas is just making sure that you can get your first 10, usually it's like your first 10 customers. So if you can't think beyond the 10 customers, like if you can't see, you know, that, oh, because there are some, for example, there's some companies that literally only serve certain types of manufacturers. And there's like in the United States, certain types like car manufacturers, there's only like 5 big car manufacturers in the United States. So if you get all 5, what happens after you get all 5? And like, is there enough business within those 5 for you to actually make this into a real business? And so typically though, like people statistically, they say that if you can get 1 customer, you can get 10 customers. If you can get 10 customers, you can get 100 customers. And if you can get 100 customers, you can get 1,000. And so if you can at least focus on finding those 10 customers, like, are you going to get 10 customers? That's typically enough for the lean canvas.
Oke, jadi pertanyaan dari Bung Jeff ini mengenai nilai dari atau dollar value dari customer segment itu. Apakah kita melihat dari kacamata itu, dari jumlah rupiahnya lah yang bisa dibawa masuk ke dalam bisnis. Apakah itu ada kaitannya dengan lean canvas? Jawaban dari Natasia bahwa di saat ini lean canvas memang fokusnya untuk dari jumlah customer-nya. Dia minta untuk supaya gimana kita mendapatkan 10 customer. Karena kalau 10 customer itu kita bisa dapatkan, berarti kita juga bisa dapatkan 100 customer. Nah, dia ambil contoh seandainya menjalankan suatu dealership mobil di Amerika gitu. Dia buka di suatu tempat. Apakah cukup dengan hanya mendapatkan 5 pelanggan untuk bisa membuka dealership di situ? Nah, itu dan disitulah keluar kaitannya jumlah uangnya. Nah, dari apa yang Natasia bilang bahwa kalau kita bisa dapatkan 1 customer, kita dapatkan 10 customer. Kalau kita bisa dapatkan 10 customer, kita bisa dapatkan 100 customer. Nah, itu yang penting, customer segment itu harus jelas untuk bisa dapatkan 10 customer yang pertama.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, any more question? If it's not, then we hold on all the question, and nanti di akhir di segmen yang berikutnya lagi. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so I will. The rest of this is a little faster, so we are starting to get towards the end here. So, key metrics is a very critical part of the business plan. So, key metrics is essentially what data, what numbers, normally key metrics is a number, what numbers can you track in order to validate whether or not your business is working or your company is working? So in the case of Facebook, it was new user signups. How long each user was online on Facebook, and how many people were each user referring. And so again, the metrics here, key metrics for your company, will help you indicate whether or not you have to spend money on marketing, or can you, because in the early stages of a business, you don't have a lot of money to, most companies, even a company like Facebook, when they started, they did not have a lot of money. And so, with the very little money that they have to figure out where they're going to invest the money. So if a lot of people are resharing their, links to Facebook and sharing it with their friends, they're sharing it with, with outside of the networks, and Facebook didn't really have to spend money on marketing. They could continue to spend money on development, on product development, because they knew that their own networks, their current users, were actually going to send, bring in new users on their own. Whereas another company that might not have the same network effects, again, we're looking at like the unfair advantage. So another company might not have the network effect, so they do have to spend money on ads, they do have to spend money on marketing and getting their name out, because they don't have the same network effect.
Oke, jadi key metrics ini sangat penting sekali dalam menjalankan suatu usaha, karena di sini kita bisa melihat angka-angka yang menunjukkan, atau sebagai angka-angka vital menunjukkan apakah bisnis kita tuh akan jalan atau akan berhasil atau tidak. Nah, dengan Facebook, mereka melihat angka-angka seperti siapa yang menjadi user atau pemakai Facebook yang baru, berapa besar jumlah orang pemakai Facebook yang baru, lalu berapa lama orang itu dia meluangkan waktunya di Facebook, lalu berapa banyak orang yang dia kasih referrals atau anjuran atau kenalkan ke teman-temannya dari account-nya dia itu. Nah, di sini kita juga bisa menentukan dari key metrics ini, apakah perusahaan kita butuh untuk berinvestasi di marketing atau di advertising. Dengan Facebook, mereka memiliki apa yang tadi disebut network effect, yang mana mereka tidak lagi melihat pentingnya berinvestasi banyak di dalam marketing, karena pemakai Facebook itu dengan sendirinya sudah menjadi orang-orang yang mempromosikan produk mereka. Tapi ada beberapa usaha lain atau jasa lain yang perlu melakukan atau berinvestasi di marketing. Nah, ini semua terlihat di dalam key metrics-nya itu.
So the better your key metrics are, the better your data that you're collecting on your business, tracking the data in your business, the better you'll be able to determine kind of your business model. And so I'll give you an example. So I used to live on Wall Street in New York City, and Wall Street is very busy during the week, Monday through Friday, because of the stock market. But on Saturday and Sunday, nobody was in the financial district. Nobody was on Wall Street. Literally everything was, there was no workers, and because of that, all of the restaurants were also closed. So all of the restaurant stores on Wall Street typically closed on the weekends because the people that work in the stock market were not there. And so that data that those restaurants and the shops there, they are probably collecting data every single day, and then notice that on Saturdays and Sundays, nobody was coming to their stores and nobody was coming to their restaurants. So if nobody was coming to their stores and restaurants on Saturday and Sunday, it doesn't really make sense to stay open on Saturdays and Sundays. Or, and then I've also seen some stores that were only open Monday and Tuesdays. And again, that store probably collected a lot of data and said, we're making most of our money on Monday and Tuesday, so there's no need to spend all this money to keep the store open on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So The better you are at tracking all of the different metrics in your business, so whether that's the number of customers, how much money, usually things that you want to track is how much money those people are spending, if it's not a tech company, how much money people are spending per day. You know, how are they finding your company? Like, are they finding it through ads? So as many data points as you can collect, but for purposes of a lean canvas, the top 3 metrics that will help indicate to you whether or not your business is doing well or doing poorly.
Oke, secepatnya kita bisa menemukan angka-angka untuk key metrics di dalam usaha kita, secepatnya pula kita mengetahui bisnis model apa yang akan kita gunakan. Contohnya ada dengan Wall Street di New York, itu sangat sibuk sekali karena disitulah stock exchange, semua stock market di New York. Dari hari Senin sampai Jumat tuh sibuknya luar biasa. Dan Sabtu Minggu atau weekend itu nggak ada apa-apa, nggak ada kegiatan karena tidak ada orang yang datang di stock exchange itu. Nah, beberapa usaha di daerah situ mereka mengumpulkan dengan cepat data tersebut sehingga contohnya restoran dia tidak buka pada hari Sabtu dan Minggu karena tidak butuh untuk dia buka, pelanggannya nggak ada. Ada juga mungkin restoran yang tutup pada hari atau hanya buka pada hari Senin dan Selasa karena dia juga tahu mungkin data yang dia terima itu memberikan dia masukan sehingga bisnis model yang dia jalankan dia hanya buka hari Senin dan Selasa. Jadi dari key metrics ini kita juga bisa dapatkan data-data mengenai berapa banyak jumlah pelanggan kita, berapa besar dia spending per harinya atau keluarkan uang per harinya untuk produk yang kita atau jasa yang kita tawarkan. Terus bagaimana mereka mengetahui mengenai usaha kita atau produk kita atau jasa kita. Nah, semakin cepat kita mendapatkan data-data itu, semakin bagus untuk usaha kita karena semakin jelas bisnis model apa yang akan kita terapkan.
So high-level concept. So this, now that you've filled out kind of all of your different boxes, key boxes, now you want to summarize what is your high-level concept. So knowing your problem, the problems that you solve, your solution, your unique value, and your customers. Now you want to summarize all of that in your high-level concept. So the summary of Facebook is a social network for college students to make better connections and friendships at the 5 top universities in the United States. So this would, of course, just be the initial high-level concept. Obviously, Facebook has changed since. But basically, what you wanted to do is you wanted to kind of summarize all of the key points that you have just described as your high-level concept.
Oke, jadi high-level concept ini adalah ringkasan dari semua poin-poin utama yang tadi kita sudah bahas dari mulai problem sampai dengan key metrics. Nah, contoh seperti Facebook, dia membuat suatu konklusinya, ringkasannya itu Facebook adalah sebuah social network yang untuk mahasiswa-mahasiswa untuk memberikan koneksi yang lebih baik dan pertemanan yang lebih baik di 5 university di Amerika. Nah, ini high level konsep yang mereka buat di awal.
Yeah, and it's important to note that this high-level concept, it actually pulls information from your problem, your solution, your unique value, your unfair advantage, your customer segments. And so, you definitely want to, and this becomes then your pitch line. So when someone asks you, when you're filling out an application, when someone asks you what your company does, it basically summarizes all of these key 5 points.
Oke, jadi ini high level konsep ini ya, seperti tadi dibilang merupakan ringkasan atau konsep-konsep yang sudah dibahas tadi, problem solution, unique value proposition, unfair advantage. Nah, menjadi suatu statement di waktu orang bertanya mengenai kita, apa sih usaha kamu atau apa yang produk yang kamu itulah yang kita akan katakan dari ringkasan yang ada di high level konsep ini.
Okay, so now that you have your summary of your business, we're going to move to channels. So channels is, the description of that is a path to your customers. So how are you going to reach your customers? Now that you know who your customer segments are, now that you have a summary, how are you going to reach your customers? So again, in Facebook's case, they had flyers in the universities. They had word of mouth through the dorm. They had, Harvard is an Ivy League, and the Ivy Leagues tend to have, friends at other Ivy Leagues, and so they spread through friends at the other 5 schools. And what else did they do? Oh, and then they sent through emails. They used emails. So again, the channels is how are you going to reach your customers?
Oke, jadi channels ini bagaimana kita bisa mengena atau mencapai pelanggan-pelanggan kita. Kembali lagi contoh dengan Facebook, mereka dengan melakukan flyers di universitas-universitas yang 5 pertama itu, lalu dari mulut ke mulut yang ada di mahasiswa di dalam asrama-asrama di 5 universitas itu, lalu melalui teman-teman yang di luar 5 universitas itu, mereka juga buat promosi mengenai Facebook dan juga melalui email-email.
And the key thing to remember when you're thinking about channels, again, is when you're thinking of the lean canvas in general, it's how do we get to the first 10 customers? So even when you're thinking of your marketing channels, how are you going to get to your first 10 customers? Like, you don't have to think, oh, how am I going to get to everyone in my customer segment? Like, how am I going to get to all 5 schools? Just think about the first 10 customers. How are you going to get to those first 10?
Oke, jadi kunci utama untuk bisa mengerti mengenai channels ini atau bagaimana bisa berinteraksi dengan pelanggan kita, pikirkan mengenai bagaimana kita bisa dapatkan 10 customer pertama, 10 pelanggan pertama. Itu aja, jangan berpikir yang terlalu besar, pikirkan aja bagaimana bisa berinteraksi dengan atau mengena ke 10 pelanggan pertama.
Okay, so the last 2 is dealing with money. And so the first one is cost structure. So this is every possible cost that is, or expense that is going to be required in order to build your business or your idea. So, this is, in Facebook's case, they would be paying for hosting, engineering. They probably have some designers, people in general, I would say. So let's see, what else would they be paying for? They would probably pay, well, at some point, a little bit of marketing. So cost structure is every single thing that you have to pay for in order to start your business. To get, again, think of it as your first 10 customers. How do I get my first 10 customers? What do I have to pay for in order to get to those first 10 customers?
Oke. Cost structure atau struktur daripada biaya ini adalah kita harus membuat daftar dari biaya-biaya yang kita akan keluarkan untuk produk yang kita sedang jalankan. Jadi kalau dengan Facebook tuh mereka lihat bahwa ada biaya untuk hosting, engineering, designers, dan mungkin dengan biaya untuk orang, dan juga untuk marketing mungkin juga. Jadi semua biaya yang berkaitan dengan usaha yang kita sedang jalankan.
And so once you've listed out all the different pricing, you do want to get the pricing, so the actual dollar amount or rupiah amount of what each thing costs. So What you want to start with is just thinking about your immediate costs in the month to come, and then you want to break it out by like what it's going to cost for the next 12 months. So typically, I'm just going to throw in the first three here. So hosting is like $20 per month. And then engineering, I'll just say, you know, they're paying $40 an hour per month. And then, you know, whatever this is, $30. Let's say $30 an hour. So you do want to price out, call around, do some research, price out how much each thing is going to cost you per month, and then do an annual, how much it's going to cost you for the year.
Oke, jadi sekali lagi kita harus mengetahui dengan jelas berapa biaya-biaya yang berkaitan dengan usaha yang kita sedang jalankan atau akan jalankan. Kita lihat biaya per bulannya. Contohnya supaya di sini dengan Facebook hostingnya umpama $20 per bulan, lalu kita proyeksikan itu sebagai biaya setahun, jadi 12 bulan. Nah, ini yang kita harus lakukan research berapa biaya yang sesungguhnya untuk setiap pengeluaran yang akan kita lakukan dalam menjalankan usaha kita.
Okay, so let's see, I'm doing a math. Okay. So in the case of Facebook, a platform like Facebook, because you know, with my engineering background, it would normally take like 7,500 hours to build something like that. So if you do the math, 7,500 hours times, just for like the initial stage, maybe 7,500 hours is a lot. It actually is a lot, yeah. So I'll just say 7,500 hours. So $40 an hour, that total becomes $300,000. Obviously, when you're starting out the company, you might not have the $300,000 to start. So at that point, that's why you have something called equity in a company. So what Facebook did is, because they didn't have the $300,000 to pay people to start, they ended up giving equity to a lot of different people to work with. This becomes complicated, but the reason why you need to know how much it's going to cost is because if you don't have the money, then you might want to give people something valuable in return for, you know, what you normally actually be paying them.
Oke, jadi saya juga menghitung dari jumlah waktu yang diluangkan untuk menciptakan suatu produk. Contohnya 7.500 jam. Seandainya 7.500 jam itu dihargai $14 per hari, $14 per jam, maka pada akhirnya itu nanti keluar angka $300.000 per tahun. Nah, waktu kita baru memulai suatu usaha itu tentunya kita nggak mungkin memiliki pemasukan atau uang yang $300.000 ini. Nah, inilah yang dimasukkan sebagai equity di dalam usaha kita. Nah, waktu kita memulai suatu usaha, mungkin ada beberapa orang yang bekerja untuk kita juga harus bisa menilai mereka itu dan berikan mereka sesuatu yang sangat bernilai sebagai pengganti waktu yang mereka luangkan dalam menjalankan usaha atau menciptakan produk itu. Ya, ini yang harus terhitung juga.
Yes, and so in a lot of tech startups and small businesses in general, they're able to get all of these great new hires and get people to work on their company essentially for free, but not necessarily for free because they're giving them ownership into a company. So if you have a business, like, you know, if you have an idea that you want to start, but you don't necessarily have the money, often equity becomes a really attractive offering that you can give people so that you can get help for your company, is give them ownership of your company.
When you say ownership, is it like a shares or something?
Yeah, it's like shares. Yep, like shares.
Okay. Jadi banyak startup company yang waktu mereka memulai itu kan mereka tidak memiliki modal yang besar, mereka biasanya mengajak orang-orang untuk bekerja sama dengan mereka menciptakan produk yang mereka ingin ciptakan, tapi tidak dibayar. Mereka bilang mereka tidak membayar orang itu, tapi memberikan seperti saham, seperti bagian dari perusahaan. Nah, ini yang disebut equity tadi.
So now the last section of your lean canvas is your revenue structure. So your revenue structure, first you want to think about, how do I charge people? How do I make money, right? So you already built this great company. I want to start making money. So in the case of Facebook, so they actually knew that they were going to be making money from ads. And they knew they would also be making money from business accounts. And so, of course, like later on, it's evolved a lot, but Facebook always knew that at some point they were going to make money off of ads or business accounts. The alternative that they could have made money from was they could have charged people, like they could have charged people $5 a month to make a Facebook account, or they could have charged just, there's a lot of different business models, but they decided that they were going to use ads as their way to make money. So they waited until they had a lot of users, because with the way ads work, people wouldn't pay to advertise on your website if you didn't have anybody coming to your website. And so eventually, of course, Facebook had a huge population. So when you're thinking about your business, first think about all of the different ways. You want to list out all of the different ways that you can make money. And then after that, you want to list out how much money can you make. And then again, you're just thinking, for my first 10 customers. And then from there, then you can think about, how much money you can make for your first 100 customers. But again, just think about how much money can you make from your first 10 customers and how.
Oke, jadi revenue structure ini atau struktur pendapatan ini adalah bagaimana kita membuat uang dari usaha kita. Facebook dari awal mereka selalu berpikir pada akhirnya nanti mereka akan mendapatkan uang dari iklan-iklan yang ditaruh di dalam Facebook dan juga business account. Alternatifnya sebenarnya Facebook bisa aja men-charge atau meminta orang untuk membayar $5 untuk memiliki akun Facebook, tapi mereka tidak lakukan itu. Jadi sekali lagi revenue structure ini kita harus berpikir cara-cara apa yang kita bisa lakukan untuk mendapatkan penghasilan atau uang. Dan berapa besar yang kita inginkan uang yang kita akan hasilkan. Nah, jadi kita lihat dari untuk customer pertama, 10 customer pertama ini, berapa besar uang yang kita ingin dapatkan dari 10 customer ini.
So that is it. That is your entire one-page lean canvas. And so normally after this, what we would normally do is we take the lean canvas and we could show your potential new employees, show business, your potential new investors, advisors, as you're talking about your company and just trying to get it started. And then at some point, I think to Rory's point, at some point, you actually then, as you're learning about the business and you're actually building the business, you actually do create a longer business plan and flesh out more of this information. But again, the whole goal of this is just to make sure you have an idea fleshed out and you can actually talk about it to other people.
Oke, jadi kita baru saja menyelesaikan lean canvas dalam satu halaman ini. Nah, di sini gunanya dari lean canvas ini memberikan kita ide bagaimana kita bisa membahas kepada orang lain mengenai usaha yang kita sedang jalankan. Dan itu karena kita tahu secara spesifik beberapa hal yang tadi kita sudah bahas. Tentunya nanti dari lean canvas ini waktu usaha itu berkembang, kita akan bisa lagi memperbesar business plan ini menjadi business plan yang lebih details lagi.
That's it. Iwan, do you want to open it up for questions?
Okay. I need a drink.
That's a lot. I knew that was a lot. That was a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah. That was really good. Okay, kita buka untuk tanya jawab. Apakah semuanya bisa buka mikrofonnya sendiri atau harus dibuka dari sini? Sebentar, saya lihat.
Bisa.
Bisa buka
sendiri.
Bisa buka
Okay.
sendiri.
Tapi satu-satu, jangan sekali 10 seperti cari 10 customer, satu-satu nanyanya.
I start, Natasia. Sorry, it's me again. It's Jeff. Sorry, I forget. Look, fantastic, and I think it's a great reflection even for existing business or organization to just reflect on how you should move forward, etc. Question on cost structure. A lot of startup I know failed because of lack of working capital. So when you do that cost structure on when do you make that decision whether it's a goer or not, or whether we should wait until we have enough working capital?
Yeah, so a lot of companies will a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, they will continue to work at their regular job and essentially use their own money and work on the company slowly in order to to get it started. So they'll use their own money while still working their full-time job. Other people will find, like myself, I found co-founders, and so I didn't have the money to pay them just yet. So I found co-founders and gave them equity in my company. And then for other people, there are some services that you can actually get for free. And so, for example, in Cincinnati, I knew some friends that really wanted to open a restaurant, but they didn't have the money to open a restaurant. So, or buy a building, but they saw that there was all these empty buildings downtown. So they actually went to the city and said, hey, like, what if I set up my restaurant there and, you guys don't want an empty building on the street? Like, that doesn't look good for the city. And so I can set up there. So entrepreneurs tend to get very resourceful about how to make up the money for the cost structure. But, you don't know what you need to pay for, or you don't know what you actually need until you're thinking through, like, what you actually need. And so it's very good to be as thorough as possible when you're thinking about the different expenses that your business might need.
Thank you. That's so.
Do I need to translate it or sort of?
Probably for others.
bit long. Yeah. Anyway, maybe Jeff, you can help me with that because.
Okay, let me try to translate.
I was blank a little bit there.
Ya, yang tadi Beta bilang, satu, ini bagus sekali terutama untuk refleksi dalam setiap bisnis, walaupun bisnis itu sudah berjalan, bahkan untuk organisasi, ini link canvas bagus untuk refleksi bagaimana kita jalan ke depan. Yang Beta pertanyakan tadi itu cost structure. Jadi banyak perusahaan startup yang gagal karena kurang working capital, kurang dana untuk operasional. Jadi pertanyaannya kapan bisa go atau bikin decision, bikin keputusan, kapan bisa jalan, atau mesti tunggu sampai punya dana yang cukup atau tidak. Itu pertanyaan. Terus jawabannya Natasia, sebagai entrepreneur kita mesti pintar-pintar cari jalan lah istilahnya. Jadi kalau perlu kalau tidak punya uang mungkin minta orang bantu dan kasih mereka saham di perusahaan kita, atau mungkin kalau tidak punya tempat, bisa dia kasih contoh ada restoran di Cincinnati, mereka tidak punya uang untuk sewa gedung, akhirnya yang dilakukan mereka cari kosong ke daerah, bilang daripada ini kosong, kita bikin restoran di sini. Jadi pintar-pintarlah cari dana untuk cost structure itu. I think that's
yeah.
That's it.
I think so. Thanks, Dave. Okay, Natasia, yesterday we got the webinar with Elsie Latuheru. It's about talking about open up a business in agriculture. Now, this is a good opportunity with this, can use the Lean Canvas as well. And I see that some of the unique selling proposition or unique value proposition that the product offered to some degrees. Like they have the nutmeg oil, they have the what's the other one? The nutmeg, the serai. Yes, serai. What is serai? Lemongrass oil. Yeah. So I was just wondering that also that some of the fishery business as well, like they were going to do the hatchery. Yeah. Talking to the lean, back to the lean canvas, will that products applicable as well for lean canvas?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. I think that so sometimes people do change. Like I've seen today that sometimes based on, I can't think of the industry off the top of my head, that they do change some of the subject areas, but for the most part, it stays pretty much the same because I think, for the most part, like every business or company that you're starting, you have to have there's a problem that you're solving for. There's a solution. There's all these different segments. So I do think that it's applicable against multiple industries. I do want to say that I remember there are some that maybe you need to change a little bit of it. I can't remember what, but I think for the majority, like 99% of businesses, or just not even businesses, organizations, nonprofits, can fit into this.
Okay. Ya, jadi kan kemarin kita baru dengarkan Elsie punya presentasi di mana bicara mengenai membangun usaha melalui perkebunan. Ya, ada minyak serai, minyak pala, dan juga kita bahas juga sedikit mengenai perikanan di mana ada pertambakan budidaya. Nah, mungkin ini bagus sekali menggunakan lean canvas. Tadi tanya kepada Natasia apakah bisa diterapkan di dalam lean canvas. Ini bisa karena 99% usaha yang dijalankan di saat ini itu bisa gunakan lean canvas. Nah, juga bagusnya tadi kalau kita lihat bahwa ada cost structure-nya itu dan revenue structure, nah itu yang banyak sekali investor atau orang yang mau berpartner itu mau tahu kan dari mana nih pemasukan dan pengeluarannya apa aja. Nah, kita udah punya unique selling, not unique selling lagi, unique value proposition yang mana tanaman-tanaman kayak pala itu semua kan mayoritas adanya di daerah kita, terus ikan, tuna dan lain sebagainya itu kan daerah kita juga di Maluku. Jadi itu suatu unique value proposition yang bisa ditawarkan oleh kita dari Maluku. Oke, mungkin ada yang lain yang mau bertanya? Silakan kalau ada yang mau tanya.
Bung Iwan, saya Bung.
Ya, Bu Sile.
Terima kasih untuk insight Lean Canvas. Yang ingin saya tanyakan mungkin bisa di-share pengalaman Natasia ketika membangun Wazer, ketika running di atas Lean Canvas, bagaimana Natasia meng-growth Wazer. Kemudian jikalau pesaing semakin banyak, bagaimana dia mengatasi persaingan itu sehingga menjadi besar dan bahkan sekarang sudah diakuisisi. Itu pertanyaan saya.
Okay. Did you get that question, Natasia?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually used my lean canvas. Like I printed, I think I probably printed like 50 copies of my lean canvas. I had it with me all the time. I basically memorized everything on my lean canvas. And I found myself using my lean canvas probably for the first 3 years of the company. And sometimes, especially when things got really hard and I was like losing focus, like people start giving you all these ideas, especially customers. Like once you start getting customers, customers start telling you all of these great ideas that they have, and it becomes really easy to lose focus. So I would constantly go back to my lean canvas and like remind myself like, okay, like this is actually what I thought the customers were. There, this is like all of the things. So I actually used my lean canvas. I mean, there was like some of my employees will tell you that I had lean canvases all over our office so that everybody in the company knew what we were working towards. I remember even in like year 5, Wiser's 6 years old. So like last year, I was still looking at my lean canvas, and it changes, as the company grows. So Wiser eventually like grew to, even though we worked with 2,200 businesses, we had over like 10, at one point we had over 10 million people using our surveys. And so it grew, but I constantly still referred to it throughout like the first 5 years of the company.
Oke. Jadi Natasia ditanya bagaimana dia bisa, tadi pertanyaan dari Usile, ceritakan sedikit pengalamannya dia membangun Wiser menggunakan Lean Canvas. Dia bilang bahwa dia terus memakai Lean Canvas karena dengan melihat Lean Canvas dari itu dia mengingatkan dia kembali akan apa sih yang sebenarnya tujuan dia menjalankan usaha dia, khususnya di waktu mulai muncul pelanggan-pelanggan. Biasanya pelanggan-pelanggan mulai memberikan masukan-masukan yang menurut mereka itu masukan yang baik. Kadang-kadang itu bisa membuat kita jadi bingung. Nah, dia selalu kembali melihat Lean Canvas-nya dia sehingga dia tahu persis apa yang dia kerjakan. Nah, Lean Canvas-nya ini dia bagikan ke semua pegawai-pegawainya, ditempel di kantornya juga supaya orang tahu apa yang mereka sedang kerjakan. Nah, sampai saat ini pun dia masih melihat, walaupun perusahaannya sudah bertumbuh jauh lebih besar daripada awal, tapi dia masih mengingat betul bagaimana Lean Canvas yang dia gunakan, dan dia hafal sekali dengan apa yang ada terisi di Lean Canvas itu waktu 5 tahun pertama dia jalankan usahanya.
And I'll also add that throughout your company, sometimes you're filling out applications for investors, you're filling out credit applications, you're filling out or you're creating proposals to your customers. I was using the Lean Canvas to pull information from for my applications, and so it definitely gets used a lot, especially when you're like writing proposals or applications.
Jadi itu dipakai sering sekali Lean Canvas-nya, khususnya waktu kita mengisi aplikasi atau proposal. Karena waktu kita mengisi aplikasi untuk ke investor, itu penting sekali informasi-informasi yang ada di dalam Lean Canvas yang kita punya. Oke, mungkin ada pertanyaan lain lagi?
Bung Iwan.
Siap.
Dari Beta, Cak. Ya, danke banyak Bung Iwan untuk acara ini, buat si Natasia juga, danke banyak. Pertanyaan Beta itu terkait dengan apa yang tadi Bung Iwan Natasia bilang bahwa kayak kita punya potensi minyak pala, minyak kayu putih, tuna dan sebagainya. Pertanyaannya adalah kira-kira bagaimana caranya kita bisa masuk ke linknya Natasia untuk marketingnya, untuk menjual produk kita. Kemudian apakah ada syarat-syarat khusus yang harus kita penuhi? Karena kebanyakan ini adalah home industry, Bung. Home industry. Apakah dengan home industry pun itu kita harus melalui beberapa tahap-tahap tertentu apa gitu loh, Bung? Itu aja sih.
Okay. Did you get the question, Natasia?
I got the first part, then some of the words got harder.
Okay. Well, you got the products, yeah, the minyak kayu putih, all the stuff, and he was asking that how could he tap into your network and what are the conditions that he has to pass to get into the network, because this is a home industry type of products.
Yeah. So I guess because it is a specific type of industry, yeah. So I think that with something that's like, is it because it's regulated? Is it because the industry is regulated? Is this a regulated industry? Like what makes it? What's the barrier to entry? I guess is like the question.
Well, maybe if I'm not mistaken, but asking Bung Icak ini maksudnya masuk di dalam networknya Natasia tuh dengan memasarkan produk melalui networknya Natasia atau bagaimana?
Ya, betul Bung.
Okay, so he's thinking of tap into your network to promote or market the products.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you want to just reach out to me, you can I can send my contact. I mean, are you meaning like my actual network or just in general, someone's actual network? Like, how do you break into other people's networks?
I think, okay. Bu Puncak nih mau masuk untuk dapatkan customer yang Natasia punya, menawarkan produk ini, gitu.
Ya, betul Bung. Ya.
That you're using your customers right now to offer their products.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk offline. So if you wanted to chat about just how to like expand into my network, we could definitely chat online.
Oke, nanti bisa bahas di luar pembahasan di Zoom ini, Bung. Ya.
Oke, baik Bung.
Oke. Bung Johan.
Halo, selamat siang, Pak Saudara. Selamat siang.
Selamat siang, Bung.
Natasia. Mau tanya begini, terkait dengan lean canvas yang Natasia kemukakan, bagi beta sih ini adalah salah satu strategik ya daripada kotoran sebagai startup untuk mengkombinasikan kotoran punya formula strategik di situ. Cuman kalau misalnya dengan adanya berbagai kebijakan yang ada di Indonesia, seperti misalnya beta startup, beta mau mengajukan proposal ya ke bank. Sementara di bank itu menyarankan bahwa kalau misalnya Ale punya usaha belum sampai 2 tahun, Ale tidak bisa mendapatkan dana ya dari perbankan. Misalnya seperti KUR, kredit usaha rakyat. Nah, apakah dengan menggunakan lean canvas ini, apakah itu cukup efektif ataukah memang hanya bisnis model ini digunakan di negara-negara tertentu seperti di Amerika, contohnya seperti itu. Yang kedua, apa bedanya lean canvas dengan bisnis model canvas? Karena kalau misalnya kita berbicara strategi, berarti harus ada yang harus dieksekusi. Seperti itu aja, Bung. Mohon pencerahan. Terima kasih.
Oke, Bung. Alright. Do you get some of it?
Yeah, I think I got it. So first of all, I'll say that here in the United States too, most startups can't get a loan. And even after the 2 years, most startups are probably not going to qualify for a loan just because of how volatile the startups are. But number two, yeah, so the lean canvas is really more so for your own personal understanding of your business and to organize your thoughts around your business and your company. So it's not necessarily like something that, because like if you're applying for a grant, if you're applying for bank loans or anything like that, typically they are very traditional and they will still want you to fill out, they'll still want you to fill out the application and submit all of the forms. And they have a very specific kind of requirement that you have to fill out. Like I've seen applications that say mandatory 20 pages to describe your customers. I'm like, why would I spend 20? Like it's very easy to describe my customers in like 2 sentences. Why would I need to like write a proposal with 20 pages? But some banks, those are the requirements. So a lean canvas is really for yourself and for your team to understand the company, not necessarily for you to go out and talk to, or apply to things.
Oke. Jadi di Amerika juga sama, startup company itu tidak diberikan pinjaman oleh financial institution manapun, bahkan setelah 2 tahun pun juga sulit sekali karena mereka tuh sangat rentan banget untuk startup company itu. Jadi nggak bisa jadi jaminan. Lalu mengenai lean canvas ini, itu gunanya memang untuk kita punya informasi pribadi dan tim kita untuk apa yang kita ingin jalankan di dalam usaha kita. Untuk masalah pengisian aplikasi untuk dapatkan loan atau pinjaman dari financial institution, itu mereka biasanya masih menggunakan metode-metode yang sangat konservatif atau tradisional sekali. Jadi masih tetap sama aja di mana.
Ya, berarti kalau misalnya kita, misalnya pemula-pemula seperti kayak misalnya, beta mau jual minyak kayu putih, beta mau jual minyak serai, udah dipakai model bisnis seperti ini, strateginya seperti ini, beta coba tawarkan ke bank memang yang bisa tuh, Om Iwan. Solusinya adalah beta harus cari investor ya.
Bisa cari investor, bisa jalankan ya. Oke, mau tanya Natasia, beta akan jelaskan ke Natasia. Ya, okay. Natasia, did you get what he said or?
Yeah, he's saying so. If he can't get a bank loan, where other options do you have? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, like a lot of companies don't qualify for bank loans, especially if you think about you're starting a new business that has an unproven market. Most financial institutions don't want to invest in that. So typically, you want to start off with just looking at the resources that you could tap into, that your local businesses, the city, the government, just friends and family. You'd be surprised by how many friends and family you have. I've also seen businesses that get commitments. If they're building a business or a service that enough people want, they will often be able, like, so Wiser, for example, we were able to charge companies money and people actually paid us before we even built the company. And so, there's things like Kickstarter. So there's a company called Kickstarter.com that allows you to advertise what you're going to build. So if you go on Kickstarter.com, every product on there, it has not been built yet. And so, but the products are such good ideas, and the products are such, helpful ideas that people actually will pay for it or like give the company money just so that they could start it. And then in return, they'll eventually get it. So some products on there, they'll probably won't get for like 3-5 years. But so there are ways, and maybe that's another class that I need to teach, is like how do you find the money or the resources to build companies if you really can't get a loan. But there are definitely other ways, because the majority of companies do not have access to loans and traditional ways of financing.
Bisa dimengerti nggak, Bung Johan?
Sedikit.
Jadi ya, nggak semua perusahaan itu dapatkan pinjaman apa yang mereka ingin gitu kan. Jadi tetap lagi harus kita tahu produknya itu dengan gunakan lean canvas tadi, bahwa apa kekuatan yang kita miliki di produk-produk kita itu. Dan memang nggak mudah untuk dapatkan pinjaman, itu nggak mudah. Cuma kalau kita bekerja dengan mungkin pemerintah daerah, berikan apa visinya mengenai apa yang kita lakukan, mungkin mereka bisa memberikan bantuan juga. Cuma mungkin maybe if I can share, because I think this is about like a trading house. Karena Bung Johan kan bukan yang punya pabrik minyak kayu putih kan?
Ya, bukan.
Memasarkan. Ini, I mean, it's the same case with our business. Kita juga trading house. I bring the fish from Maluku. Saya bawa ikan dari Maluku. Saya bukan pengusaha ikan di sana. Cuma saya punya pasar di Australia. Ya kan? So what I'm selling is the unique value tadi, propositionnya. Kenapa saya bisa jual ikan Maluku? Bagaimana saya bisa jual itu ikan Maluku? Ya, apa kelebihan ikan Maluku daripada ikan tuna yang sama yang datang dari Indonesia? Nah, itu yang harus dicari tahu dulu. Minyak kayu putihnya, kenapa minyak kayu putih yang Bung Johan punya berbeda dengan minyak kayu putih yang lain? Nah, cuma masalah financialnya itu, sebagai trading house, kita sebenarnya nggak butuh modal yang besar. Kita butuh hanya untuk bagaimana mengconnect orang yang membutuhkan produk kita, yaitu mencari 10 customer pertama. Dengan kita pastikan dia membeli produk kita karena produk kita itu unik. Ya, karena Kalau Bung Johan jual minyak kayu putih, Bung Ishak jual minyak kayu putih, apa yang membedakan produknya Bung Johan dengan produknya Bung Ishak? Menawarkan produk yang sama, ya kan? Itu yang tadi di dalam lean canvas itu juga ada kan competitive analysisnya itu. Nah, itu yang harus dibuat dulu rasa untuk kita tahu. Ya kan? Karena menjadi trading house itu adalah bagaimana kita bisa meyakinkan si pelanggan bahwa produk kita memiliki kualitas dan memiliki juga harga yang kompetitif gitu kan. Intinya itu aja, karena kita nggak punya modal. Modalnya apa sih? Modalnya kan kita nggak buat pabrik ya.
Reseller berarti jatuhnya ya, seperti itu ya?
Iya kan?
Iya.
Karena kalau kita buat pinjam uang dari bank, pinjam untuk apa? Beda dengan kayak Facebook, dengan Wiser, mereka kan memang ciptakan produk. Mereka butuh infrastruktur dan itu butuh uang. Tapi kalau sebagai trading house, enggak, tinggal gimana tahu persis produk itu punya kelebihan-kelebihannya dan pastikan harganya bersaing, itu aja. Dan habis itu ya customer service-nya harus bagus.
Ya. Baik, Bung Iwan. Nangkap. Ya, dan banyak.
Ada yang lain?
Ya, Bung Iwan, Beta, Bung Iwan.
Bung Angki.
Ya, terima kasih Bung Iwan, terima kasih si Natasia. Hari ini kita sangat senang sekali karena dari kemarin UCL dan hari ini si Natasia telah membuka, kita punya pemikiran tentang bagaimana membuat suatu usaha-usaha dalam membangun kita punya kehidupan, khususnya kita anak-anak Maluku ya. Beta mau bilang bahwa beta senang bahwa sesuatu perencanaan itu memang ketong harus bisnis itu ketong harus mengerti apa yang ketong mau lakukan tentang bisnis itu, terus apa yang dengan produk yang ketong harus kuasai sehingga ketong tidak bisa nanti bisa bingung kalau orang bertanya ya. Dan beta setuju soal keunikan itu. Nah, yang beta mau pertanyakan pada Usi Natasia, bagaimana sampai sekarang Usi Natasia bisa menjalankan bisnis itu dan mempertahankan konsumen-konsumen yang ada. Ya, kebanyakan orang kan berjalan dalam bisnis ini kan, sesuatu bisnis dia kurang mempertahankan konsumen, kadang-kadang juga kan jatuh juga. Tapi Usi Natasia sampai saat ini, ya puji Tuhan kita lihat masih bisa mempertahankan konsumen-konsumen itu. Nah, kita kira mungkin kiat-kiat apa saja atau dengan clean canvas ini, Usi Natasia bisa mempertahankan konsumen-konsumen yang ada sampai saat ini. Terima kasih. Itu aja, Bung.
Okay. Did you get the question? The question is how you maintain your customers.
Yes. So my mom will probably, I'll first say berdoa banyak, but so I think excellent customer service. So when I started that first 10 customers, so I was very fortunate that my first 10 customers were very big customers. They were like Walmart, Disney, Unilever, Volkswagen. So I had some very big customers, but so everybody had my cell phone number. They had my personal email. One of my customers, she used to like send me messages on WhatsApp, on Facebook. Like she would call me at 2 a.m. in the morning and I would pick up and I would have meetings with them at 2 a.m. in the morning. And so I think just in the beginning, you are your main customer support. And why that's helpful is because there were times that Wiser did not meet the customer's needs. Like, it's a software company and we're a young company and the software would break and the customers would be using it and then all of a sudden it's broken and it's in like 3,000 stores and I remember a time when it was in Walmart and it was in 3,000 stores and Wiser broke. But because I had such a great relationship with my customers, they were much more forgiving and they were much more easy to work with. And then they end up, because the experience was so great, they end up telling other people. So number one, I would say develop great relationships, be honest, always, don't try to lie and make something seem better than it actually is. Be very honest with your customers, but also build a really good product and build a really good service. I think that's what I did the best at, was I built a really good software. And so those customers, those 10 customers, I was lucky that I had the 10 big customers, but they ended up telling their friends and other market researchers and all of these people. And so Wiser, actually, we never paid any money for marketing because all of our customers just were so happy to tell other people about it.
Oke, thank you Natasia. Bung Angki, gimana? Jadi seperti Natasia bilang bahwa waktu dia pertama dapatkan customer, kebetulan customer pertama 5 yang pertama itu semua besar-besar semua, perusahaan-perusahaan besar. Nah, cuma dia betul-betul pastikan bahwa customer itu mendapat support dari dia. Kadang-kadang ada customer yang telepon dia jam 2 pagi. Nah, itu bagian dari customer service. Nah, cuma memang intinya membangun suatu atau memiliki produk yang bagus itu akan membuat banyak orang menceritakan mengenai produk itu dan memberikan kayak referrals untuk perusahaan-perusahaan lain juga. Nah, bangun hubungan dengan customer itu sangat penting, tapi memiliki produk yang bagus itu juga sangat penting sekali. Okay.
And I know we're coming up to 2 hours. I think we're on to 2 hours. So I did, before we end, I did want to make sure everybody knows that we have a grant that is open. And so I would love for all of the entrepreneurs on this call, all the business owners, to definitely apply to our grant. That it is 2 companies per month.
Oke, jadi Natasia baru mengatakan bahwa ada beasiswa atau donasi yang akan diberikan oleh Natasia untuk 2 orang atau 2 usaha yang sedang dijalankan. Jadi pastikan mengisi aplikasi yang ada di website-nya Berkat Ambon. Is that right, Natasia? Berkat Ambon website?
Yeah, berkatambon.org. Yep.
Ya, berkatambon.org. Itu bisa isi aplikasi, nanti akan dilihat oleh Natasia dan akan diseleksi untuk diberikan bantuan donasinya itu 3.6 million, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah.
Ya, untuk setiap ada 2 orang.
Oke, thank you, Natasia, thank you, Bung Iwan.
Sama-sama, Bung. Oke, ada lagi?
Bu Iwan, boleh tanya satu lagi, Bu?
3 juga nggak apa-apa. Tapi
mau related dengan kemarin, Bung. Jadi excited banget karena dari kemarin UCLs dan hari ini sambung Natasia. Dan yang ingin saya tanyakan bahwa kebetulan saya cukup lama mengenal Elsa, jadi bisnis yang kemarin disampaikan Elsa itu di kacamata saya social entrepreneur. Jadi dalam konteks ini yang ingin saya tanyakan kepada Natasia bahwa social entrepreneur ini punya tingkat kesulitan cukup rumit, sehingga ketika dibawa ke Lean Canvas, di bagian manakah kita mengembangkan inovasi itu, di segmen mana, sehingga bisa menjawab itu, karena kita sudah bisa mengikuti penjelasan Elsa kemarin, sehingga bagi saya itu tipenya adalah social entrepreneur. Jadi yang ditanyakan kepada Natasia, bagaimana pemahaman atau arahan beliau kepada social entrepreneur, dan di dalam Lean Canvas, di bagian mana yang harus kita exercise untuk innovation, untuk menjawab social entrepreneur itu. Terima kasih.
Okay, Natasia, did you get the question?
Is the question like, how do you address innovation in social entrepreneurship with the Lean Canvas?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So you can still use the Lean Canvas for like things like nonprofits and social entrepreneurship, but some of the direct things that are related to a for-profit business are going to be different. For example, key metrics. So if you're building a social entrepreneurship company, the key metric might actually be, so if I'm building a nonprofit to feed you know, feed people that don't have enough food. So maybe my key metric is actually how many people do I feed this month, or how much donations are going out, how many families are we touching. So it's still a key metric, but it's not necessarily like the data points that a for-profit company would be using. And then within revenue streams, so most for-profits, I mean, most social entrepreneurships and nonprofits, their revenue streams are actually donations or grants or, you know, things like that. So again, it's still kind of the same same categories, but you're just thinking of it, the definition of it, because it's a social entrepreneurship, it is a nonprofit. You're thinking of it in a different manner. I hope that's like the right.
Yeah. Perlu terjemahan, ya. The lean canvas masih bisa digunakan. Maybe if I can add a little bit more, Natasia, because maybe the question is related to the presentation that we had yesterday, and it's about Elsie Latuheru studying the agriculture, and the problem is, like, if you put it into the lean canvas, there's the problems. The problems is for the farmers can get the product to the market. It takes 3 days walk to get the product to the market. That's one problem. And then the land sold so people can get to the road. All the land near the main road is already sold. People can get to the road. And then the farmer has no access to the buyers. So that's why this is good with the lean canvas. You help to determine what are the problems, and then you become the solution. And the solution of Els yesterday was pretty good. That how he talked about the planting all this lemongrass and everything that will help the farmers later on to get the access to the buyers. Yeah, so that can apply to the lean canvas. It is a social entrepreneur at the beginning, but at the end of the day, you produce a product. And when you produce the product, then you relate that to the customers, then there's a dollar value. Then everything that we discussed today about the lean canvas is applicable. And it's translated. Jadi apa yang disampaikan oleh Elsie kemarin itu kan persis seperti apa yang bisa diterapkan di dalam lean canvas ini. Bahwa ada masalah apa sih yang terbesar ya, kemarin petani itu harus jalan 3 hari baru bisa ke market, terus juga tanah-tanah di pinggir udah kejual semua, terus juga ada apa, nggak punya akses sama sekali ke buyers. Masuklah si Elsie, ya, dia ciptakan jalan keluar untuk si petani-petani ini punya akses ke sana. Nah, ini secara tidak langsung masuk di dalam cara lean canvas ini. Memang isu social entrepreneurship, tapi karena dia menciptakan produk, maka sudah menjadi komersial. Dan kalau dia hanya bekerja tanpa ada produk, itu social enterprise. Tapi kalau udah menjadi produk dan produk itu nanti di-convert ke si pembeli menjadi dollar atau menjadi rupiah, nah itu lean canvas masuk banget gitu, semuanya bisa kita terapkan. Okay. You want to add something else, Natasia?
No, I don't have anything else, but I probably have to run soon because it's past 11 o'clock and I've had a long work day. So.
Yeah. It's been a long hours too. That was really good, though. Very, very good, Natasia. So we appreciate your time and all the information that you gave us today, and I'm sure that will be another follow-up of the workshop, if you don't mind, because it's too much to just digest everything all at once.
Yeah. Oh yes, so we did want to say that if you submit, I think Iwan, are they sending it to you? But if you work on your lean canvas for your own personal company or your business and you send it into Basudara Global, I will actually go through and review your lean canvas as if you send it in the next week or so.
Oke, nah, tapi apa-apa yang tadi lean canvas yang di-share oleh Natasia itu bisa diisi berdasarkan usaha masing-masing yang sedang dijalankan, lalu nanti bisa dikirim ke email dari mungkin Beta punya email atau Bung Jeff punya email juga saya apa-apa, Bung Jeff punya email aja. Bung Jeff, jangan ketawa Bung Jeff. Jeff, tolong ditaruh di chat atau oke, I'll put my email as well. Ya, Beta taruh Beta punya email, tapi Bung Jeff juga taruh juga, jadi.
Wouldn't we use the Bahasa Basudara email?
Okay, what is the Bahasa Basudara email again?
Bahasa Basudara.
Bu Iwan bisa Beta tanya sedikit kah?
Ya, silakan.
Ya,
belum di chat Bung Jeff. Oh udah, oke, thank you.
Ya, selamat siang semuanya, selamat siang Natasia, Bu Iwan. Ya, pertama mungkin Beta terima kasih sekali ya 2 hari ini ketong kembali kuliah ulang gitu ya, apalagi kuliah bisnis. Coba kalau bayar tuh berapa duit gitu kan?
Iya, pengusaha minyak kayu putih nih.
apalagi kalau Prasetya Mulia lebih mahal lagi. Jadi aduh, puji Tuhan ya dapat berkat 2 hari inilah gitu. Mungkin ya Beta tertarik dengan metode link campus ini kasih semacam kayak analisa begitu ya sebelum memulai usaha begitu ya. Mungkin mau tanya aja waktu bikin link campus untuk Wiser, mungkin kadang-kadang kita ngisikan, kita kalau sendiri mikir kan mungkin kadang bingung atau belum tahu itu bagaimana, misalnya lagi mentok lah ya, istilah ketong tuh mentok, itu bagaimana cara Natasia untuk mencari info-info seperti apa begitu kan. Kadang-kadang kalau ketong pikir sendiri kan kadang-kadang bingung sendiri juga kan begitu kan. Itu aja mungkin yang ada hal-hal apa yang atau cari tahu kemana begitu ya. Jadi waktu bikin Wiser pertama kali begitu.
Bantuan dari siapa juga gitu ya?
Iya, atau ada grup-grup atau baca atau apa begitu. Karena itu kan perlu kreativitas ya, begitu ya. Dari pengalaman, dari baca buku, ada orang ngomong gitu kan, atau ada grup-grup diskusi, gitu kira-kira begitu. Terus mungkin juga tadi kayak balik lagi ke minyak kayu putih, sebenarnya di Jakarta ini yang paling gampang cari uang ya itu jadi reseller sih, nggak perlu modal sih. Orang transaksi pergi ambil aja udah dapat duit, nggak perlu uang sih sebenarnya.
Jadi sudah ada 3 reseller so far yang tanya. Oke.
Ya mungkin itu ya. Jadi mungkin tapi ya memang Beta setuju ke depan memang kalau kita model bisnisnya lebih bagaimana memberdayakan orang ya. Jadi itu sharing profit gitu. Kalau kita kerja di perusahaan ya Beta lama diperkerja di perusahaan juga ya begitu ya. Profitnya paling kita naik gaji berapa ke kita gitu ya kan. Dia sharing profitnya ya banyak kan ke bosnya yang lebih kaya daripada kita kan begitu. Tapi mungkin ke depan kita anak-anak Maluku bagaimana bikin model bisnis yang bisa memberdayakan semua begitu. Jadi makan tuh bagi-bagi semua, bisa rasa semua begitu. Mungkin model benar bisnis yang dalam Beta pikiran ke depan begitu ya, begitu. Jadi itu alih rasa Beta rasa tuh lebih dikedepankan lah begitu. Menjadi ya. Jadi yang penting semua rasa lah begitu. Jadi boleh untung banyak-banyak berbagi-bagi lah begitu, semua happy semua begitu. Itu kira-kira Bu. Ya, danke banyak ya.
Natasia, did you get the question?
I do not. Sorry.
How do you get the help when you first make your lean canvas?
Wiser.
Yeah. So I did a lot of research online. I talked to a lot of different advisors. I talked to other people, like other entrepreneurs as well. And so, yeah, you definitely, when you're building your lean canvas, a lot of it is your work. So you kind of have to sit there and just really process and think about your idea. Because again, like your idea is your idea, right? Like it's your business plan, it's your company. So you do have to do a lot of thinking, like analysis on your own. But most of this information is not, if you've never started a business. I actually never started a business before I started my first company. And so I had to do a lot of research. I had to read a lot of books. I attended a lot of events and conferences. I think the fact that you all are spending your Saturday online, like learning how to do lean canvas, that's a great sign. So there is a lot of like online webinars. There's a lot of conferences that you can attend and just start to learn. Especially if you do your competitive analysis, you can do research on your competitors. So if you have, you know, if you write down the other competitors in your industry, you can go look and see what they're doing, what their markets are. A lot of their information is on their websites or in, you know, online. And so that's what I did too, because when we were starting out, I looked at SurveyMonkey a lot, which is a huge competitor. It's like the biggest survey company in the world. Looked at their market to see what I should be doing for my own company.
Oke, jadi Bung Pice dapat itu, dia melakukan banyak research, tanya-tanya banyak orang, dia lihat SurveyMonkey sebagai perusahaan survei terbesar dunia, bagaimana mereka bisa berhasil dan modelnya itu seperti apa. Jadi banyak lakukan research dan tanya orang.
Oh iya, oke Bu, ya, danke banyak ya.
Ya.
Iwan, Natasia, thank you.
Oke.
Mungkin nanti kalau ini ke depan kita kalau ada sesuatu kita bisa langsung direct itu tanya ke Natasia gitu ya, misalnya buat konsultasi gitu-gitu bisa ya, misalnya. Ya, oke. Terima kasih. Ya.
Alright, Natasia, I think you look a bit tired now.
So
Yeah,
much.
I had to work like 12 hours every day this week, so it's been a long week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's already almost 11:30. Okay, well, again, thanks so much, Natasia.
Thank you so much, Natasia.
We look forward for the next workshop again with you. And in the meantime, if you have any question, maybe instead of everybody ask Natasia directly, maybe you can ask the question by email. Daripada semuanya tanya ke Natasia, pertanyaannya di email aja ke Bahasa Basudara, ya. Nanti biar ditanyakan, karena Natasia juga seperti kita dengar, dia kerja 12 jam, sibuk luar biasa. Kalau everyone writing questions directly to Natasia, dia nggak kerja lain, jawabin ini aja, pertanyaan aja. Ya. Jadi tolong nanti pertanyaannya itu supaya mungkin kita juga bisa gabung sama-sama yang kemarin ikut dengan presentasinya siapa? Natasia, untuk bahas apa sih yang bisa dibuat sama-sama. Ya. Sudah ini ya, nanti biar Natasia boleh mengundurkan diri, karena dia juga ada capek, kita bisa sedikit bicara apa sih yang kita bisa sama-sama lihat ke depan dari apa yang Elsie jelaskan. Karena waktu itu berjalan cepat sekali, kalau kita nggak take action, akhirnya nggak akan jadi apa-apa. Okay, Natasia, thanks so much from all of us.
Natasha.
Bye.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
Salam gemam. Salam gemam.
Bye-bye, Natasia. Thank you so much. Everyone can say thank you.
Natasha, thank you.
And if
Bye.
stay for the discussion,
Thank you, Natasia.